Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with the mid-year book freakout tag. I've done this for like 5 or 6 years now. This is a staple in the booktube community when mid-year happens. I've seen a few people do this. I usually try to wait until like July 1st to do this when it's like exactly mid-year, but I am going to be doing a video where I talk about my top 15 books, like total of the year, and I didn't want to do that like immediately after doing this, and I want to do that the first week of July. So I've decided to do this video now, and I'm excited. So I will go ahead and get to all the prompts. I will link all the prompts down below as well, so you guys can check them out if you want to do this video. And I'm just here to chat about all the good, the bad, and the want to read books of the year. So the first question is the best book you've read this year, and I've decided, since I'm going to be doing that other video later, I'm going to do my favorite book of each month. So on Instagram, I've decided to show that, where at the end of the month I have a graphic where I add my new favorite book of the previous month. So I know all of these off the top of my head. So in January, my favorite book was Little Lies by Helena Hunting. This one is so good, and I talked about it so much since I read it. It's a hockey romance. It's new adult. They met when they were like, they've grown up together, like when they were young, and she was kidnapped very briefly at a carnival, and it has affected so many people, including our hero and her brothers. So the hero was horrified, and they kind of use each other as a crutch after that, and the parents are like, we need to not let them like need each other constantly and separate them so they can figure out things on their own. So they did, and then something kind of happens between them in high school where he really pushes her away and hurts her feelings. So now she hates him, and now they're in college, and she has to live with her brother in his house, and the hero lives really close by, and they're reunited and start liking each other again. So that, but she's like angry still and makes him work for it. Love that one. I have The Choice by Ashley Jade. This one is a very messy love triangle. It's a spin-off from The Words. The two heroes are in a band in high school, starting out their band and before they're famous, and they both came from foster care and have really horrible pasts and get adopted by this family, or like that's their foster placement, but then they get adopted, and she lives next door. So they all have horrible pasts, like I said, but the hero's best friend and her have a shared horrible past where they can really relate to one another, and so she is dating his best friend, but he's like in love with her since they've met. So very messy. I loved it. And then we have Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young. This is a friends to lovers romance, and I'm obsessed with this one. They met on New Year's Eve, and they end up being best friends, even though the hero's been like pining after her the whole time, and she decides to buy a bus and renovate it to live out of, and he helps her, and then they fall in love during the process, and I loved it. And then we have Blame It on the Tequila, which I just talked about in a video that I filmed for next week, where I'm talking about like my favorite series that you should binge. And this one is a second chance from when they were in high school, where they were falling in love, and they were step siblings. So they broke up, like things went wrong, and now he is a rock star and she has to go on tour with him, and it's so good. Obviously they fall in love. And the last one is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is a fantasy dragon riders. She is in like this training facility to become a dragon rider, and lots of people die, lots of secrets, great romance. I was obsessed with this book. You probably have heard of it. I really enjoyed it. Okay, well, that was only the first question. So the next question is best sequel. I have 3. I have Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I loved this book. I know a lot of people didn't love it, but this one is a second chance small town romance, and she is there is a child involved that she's living with, and that's all I want to say about that, but he really has to grovel and make it up to her, and I loved it. He had some substance abuse issues in the past, and it was long, but I could not put this book down. It was my favorite in the series. Highly impressed. It was book 3. Loved it. We have Give Me Love by Corinne Michaels. This is book 2 in the series. Book 1 was an amnesia romance. I gave 4 stars, but this one just blew the book 1 out of the water. Like, this one was so good. Romantic suspense. They had a marriage of convenience when they were both in the military, and now he is in Rose Canyon, which is a small town, and she visits the small town. She's a private investigator, and she's helping figure out this like whole big mystery murder thing that was happening in book 1 and goes all the way to book 3, but there's such good suspense in here, and I was shocked how much I loved it. The audiobook was great. And then I have King of Pride by Anna Huang. This is book 2 in the series that she wrote that I'm blanking on the name of, but Kai was everything, and she is a bartender at this like elite club for really rich people, and Kai is one of the people that go there, and he is very serious, very prideful. They hit it off though, and they end up falling in love, and I love a good billionaire romance. This is my new favorite Anne Huang book. I loved it. We have a new release that you haven't read yet. So I have 4. First is Weak Side by S.J. Silvas. This one is a hockey romance, and I've been meaning to read it. It's literally on my bedside table. I'm gonna read it soon. I also have Elizabeth O'Rourke's new one, The Summer We Fell. This one is angsty, and I think it's like ex's brother or something. I don't know, but I've heard amazing things about this one. And then I have another angsty one, which is If This Is Love by Julie Ann. This one I've also not heard too much about the plot of. I just know that he's marrying the woman she hates. Gonna be good. And then we have The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I've still not read this yet. I'm saving it for a vlog that I've just been like putting off because I'm horrible at actually executing vlogs. I have so many ideas for vlogs and come up with all the books that I want to read for them, and then I just run out of time. So I have to do this vlog, but this one is a basketball fake dating romance. I loved Mile High, so I have to read that one. Then we have most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I actually have a video of all the books I cannot wait to read for the summer, so check that out if you haven't yet. But I have Glimmers of You by Catherine Cowles. This comes out on my birthday on August 1st. Lovely birthday present to me. This one's book 3 in the Lost and Found series. I'm very excited for that one. We have Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, which is book 2 to Fourth Wing. That's gonna be amazing and super hyped, and everyone's gonna want to get their hands on that one. Then we have Not So Lucky by Trelina Pucci. This one is a Vegas romance where there are group activities and he's a football player. So I love Trelina Pucci. She writes such good spice, so I'm excited for that. Score by Kennedy Ryan has no release date or cover, I believe, but it's supposed to come out this year. And then I also have a Stacey Reid. I think the one that's coming out is An Earl to Remember. I don't think that's come out yet, but I'm so excited for all of her releases that are coming out this year. Then we have Biggest Disappointment. So the first one's When a Moth Loved to Be by Pepper Winters. This was supposed to be like an epic dark romance, and it was way too long. It had such good ideas, but the world building was just too drawn out. There was too much that was like over and over and over again that we saw. They wake up and have no memory of each other or their past, but they just know that they're soulmates, and life keeps on bringing them back together. And it's very like prehistoric, but there's magic involved. So it's really hard to explain. I was really excited for it. I did it for my Patreon book club and had a chat with Jennifer Hartman about it. She loved it, but I think so much could have gotten cut out, which I also know she cut out already like 200 pages. I think it was supposed to be 1,000 pages and she cut 200 out to get to 800, and it could have easily been like a 400 page book. Like there did not need to be at all as much as there was in here. And the next one is Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. This one I thought I would absolutely love, but it wasn't bad, but it was definitely disappointing because I think I gave it 3.5 stars or 3. There was just too much downtime. So much could have been cut out. I feel like this one just needed another round of edits where we cut out the things where nothing was really happening, and it could have been a really strong story, because again, there were things that I really loved about it that could have made it a 5-star read. It just wasn't, and I was really sad because I know a lot of people loved it, but this one was just a little disappointing and it made me sad. Biggest surprise. So the first one is Power by Cassandra Robbins. This one is a mom's fiance romance, and I had the funnest time. Even someone was like, wow, like I'm surprised you loved it, but then I read it and I literally could not put it down. This one is just like candy. It was something that I needed at the time, and it was so much fun and super spicy, and he actually has to grovel, and he's a billionaire and he throws his money around. Her mom's not a good person. She doesn't like her mother, and you don't feel bad. I loved it. Give me a good taboo time. This was so fun. The other 2 books that were the biggest surprise were Sinner and Saint. I read Priest and it was okay. It wasn't my favorite, and so I put these off for the longest time. These are amazing. These are like one of my favorite books of the year. I love them so much. So emotional. Like I've not been emotionally invested and attached to characters in such a long time like these books had me invested in. So I was obsessed, and I'm so happy I finally read them. I get the hype. I'm like, the Priest series is fine. I read Priest. It was fine. These were on another level. Amazing. Favorite new authors. So I have a bunch. So we're gonna go Nora Roberts. I have been super excited to read more of her backlist. I think I've read 3 books by her this year, and I'm excited to read more. I recently read Black Hills. Loved it. So excited on my Nora Roberts journey. We have Chloe Walsh. I read this one, was obsessed, and now I want to read everything by her. So obviously, she's on the list. Then we have Lulu Moore. I read The Third Baseman, which is a second chance baseball romance, and I loved it. So again, another author I'm excited to read more from. Tal Bauer. I read the rest of the story, which I'll talk about in a later prompt. He's an MM romance author, and this one was a hockey romance, and it was amazing. I'll talk about it later, but like, I need to read more books by him. Then I have Laura Pavlov. I'd only read one book by her, I think, before the year started, and that was Only Mine, which is the first book in the Honey Mountain series, which was fine, but I've been devouring this series and I'm obsessed. I've read her Cottonwood Cove series, the 2 books are out now, and I love them. She's easily a new favorite small town romance author of mine, so she's a new favorite author. Newest fictional crush, I'm gonna go with Theo from Reckless. He's literally on another level. This is a surprise pregnancy romance, and when he figures out that he's a dad, and when he's so protective of Winter, he's like, that is the mother of my child, you will not talk to her that way. I'm obsessed with him. But I also have Kai from King of Pride. I loved Kai so much, so he's also a new fictional crush. I already talked about this book though, so we're gonna move on. The next one is new favorite character, and I'm gonna go with Jacob from Yours Truly. I think his name is Jacob. I loved him. I think he was the sweetest character, and he made this story what it was, and I loved the heroine and how she was so perceptive of what he needed. He has a lot of anxiety, and he's a doctor, and she's a doctor. They work together, and I just love their dynamic so much, and I love this book so much, so I would say Jacob. A book that made you cry. I don't cry that often in books, but I was on vacation this past week. I read Something Wild and Wonderful by Anita Kelly. This is an MM hiking romance. They hike the Pacific Coast Trail, and they both are soul searching. The one, Alexi, he grew up in a very religious family, came out as gay, and they completely cut him off. So he doesn't know what to do. He was so close with his family, he loved them, and now he's like, I don't know, I don't have a family. I don't have anybody. And he is really grappling with that, and his connection with faith and the church and what he's had his whole life and how he feels about being cut off from that too. And then we have Ben, who has a very loving family, and he has had a very long string of toxic relationships, and so they both decided to hike this trail, and they meet on the trail and decide to walk together. And Alexi is one of my favorite characters too. I didn't want to do him for favorite character because it's questions back to back, but he's definitely a new favorite character. They fall for each other on the trail, but Alexi has a lot that he is going through and a lot that he's grappling with, and they don't know how to have a functioning relationship when they can't figure out themselves first. So I cried near the end. There was such an emotional scene that happened that led them to their HEA. It is a happily ever after. This is a romance, but I loved it. I literally read this in one day. I was obsessed and I cried. And then the other one I cried in is The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer, which is another MM romance, but this one is a hockey romance. It's very underdog and found family. The one hero is traded to a hockey team that is like a death sentence for hockey players. They are the worst in the league. Anybody who gets traded there, their career is over. So he is traded there, and he quickly realizes that something is horribly wrong with this team, and there's someone that is very abusive towards the players. So he pretty much weeds that person out and has to bring this team up from trauma. They are all traumatized by what happened, especially the rookies. This is their first time on the team, and they want to make it big, and they are going through so many bad things. And he falls for a rookie on the team who is 25, I think. There's a bit of an age gap, but he's a rookie because he went to college first, and now he is a hockey player, and it is so good. But there's a lot of trauma that these characters experience that really comes out at the end, and I just love these characters so much, and I want to hug them, and I did not want to see them hurt, and they hurt a lot. So I loved this. If you love hockey, if you were ever on a team, I feel like you would love this as well. A book that made me happy was Charlie Loving Cliches by Ella Mays. This one was just so fun, and I love cute characters. I love Ella Mays' writing. This one, the heroine works for her dad at like a PR firm, and her dad like runs her in a million different directions, but doesn't respect her and talks down to her and belittles her. And then this guy starts working as like a team lead, and he is someone she had met years ago where they spent like a week together and fell hopelessly in love, but the timing wasn't right, and they thought they'd never see each other again, and now they do. And it's so cute. It is so cute. I love the hero in this, and his love language is touch. So once they decide to be together, they're also neighbors. He can't stop touching her and needs to like be around her, and I loved it. I loved it so much. This was so good. A book I need to read before the end of the year. This is a long list, and I just kept on adding more. So we have Divine River. This is Books with Samantha. She loves this author, and she told me to read this year. This is on my list of like 12 12 Books from 12 Friends. I haven't read this yet. I really want to. Chasing Fire by Nora Roberts is a romantic suspense book that Catherine Cowles recommended to me. This one, they are about people who like jump out of planes to put fires out. Then I need to finish the Magnolia Park series. I've only read the first 2. I am traumatized but absolutely in love with them, so I need to read the next 2. Finish the Boys of Tommen series, Tommen by Chloe Walsh. I would love to read Throne of Glass. I've only read the first book twice. Haven't finished it yet, but I would love to. And then Jennifer Hartman's Backlist. I have like 4 books I need to finish by her, and I've been putting them off because she's an all-time favorite author with all-time favorite books, and I need to have the perfect time to read them. But I need to read them this year. The last question is a favorite book to movie adaptation. I don't think I've read any. I read mostly indie romances. I don't really do that. But I did finish Queen Charlotte yesterday, the show, and I would like to read the book, but I know the book was adapted from the show, like they did the show script, and then Julia Quinn wrote the book, but that ending of Queen Charlotte, it's June 12th, the day I'm filming this, and I just finished, and I think it came out in like May. I was putting it off because I wanted to savor it, and I was a hot mess when I finished, and then I went upstairs to do something, thought about the ending, and started crying again. So I'm not okay, but that's really the only kind of adaptation that I think I've seen this year. And that's the mid-year book freakout tag. Let me know your answers to these. What are your favorites and least favorites and disappointments and crushes and everything like that of the year? I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.